Welcome. Gio and I are here with Javier Garcia Iza, and he is the CEO of EOS offices or iOS offices. And he has 40 plus locations, I think, in Mexico, 35, 40. We'll let him confirm. If you're watching on the video, Javier has his sun hat and his sunglasses on. He's in his mountain home. He probably needs a little break after hosting Immersive last week. So I don't blame you, Javier. And your sound is great. Everyone should take their Zoom calls from the mountains.
All right.
That's what I think. Okay, we're so happy to have you. We were just talking. Javier has not been on the Flex Uncensored podcast. Lorena was on. I'm trying to think of why we had Lorena on. She community manager of the year maybe a couple years ago? Is
Yeah,
that
she
possible? Yeah,
yeah. Yeah.
exactly. So that's probably why we had her on. So we're
No,
so
she left and she was doing some industrial thing in Houston when she came on.
Oh, whoopsie. That's why we had her on. Okay, I totally remember that now. Okay. Yeah. So Javier's been on the Everything Coworking podcast. But Javier, I think we all do. We love your story, we love your brand, and we love you. So we're happy to chat with you today. And thank you for he's taking a little selfie of us.
Yeah.
Yeah, look at me repping the brand today.
Yeah,
I'm,
you
I'm
are.
double repping.
I'm double repping too, Flex Uncensored and EOS.
I
So
know.
I'm double repping as well.
I love it.
Javier, thanks for taking time. So I actually love this background that you have because, you know, not only are you a good friend, a good industry colleague, but I follow you on Instagram and this is your life, right? I mean, you work hard, play hard. And so I love that about how big you live life, right? And
I was
so
just thinking that when he said that about why he bought the cabin. And I also follow Javier on Instagram. So I see his adventures, his love for the outdoors and activity and for family. So
Thank
you have a beautiful family. So yeah, sorry, didn't mean to interrupt you, Gio, but I was
oh,
thinking the same thing. Like
you're
this guy has a fabulous business and he's finding a way to like squeeze the juice out of life. I'm sure there's some great Spanish phrase for that.
thank you, Jamie. I'm very excited to be here for the first time in Flex Uncensored.
Yeah.
We have 36 locations. We are working in maybe opening a few more in the upcoming months. And yeah, I'm at Puerta del Cielo, which is a place. It's a land I bought years ago, and then I built this adobe cabin, and I dedicate this area to the conservation of endemic species of trees and some of them that are in the list of endangered species. Yeah, and I do love trees and the outdoors. So yeah, it is a very interesting place for me to be to come here to spend time, to relax, to work with my hands and to plant and enjoy the outdoors. Today we have a very sunny, cool day.
yeah, Jamie, and you brought up, how hard Javier and the team worked on Immersive, and it was so amazing to spend time with the entire team planning all that. Before that, I got to spend some time with them in Mexico City and Monterrey for their 5K. We'll get into that. So they do 3 5Ks a year to raise money, and so again, he gives back a lot, but just kind of focused on Immersive. I mean, it was just his team put a lot of energy and effort in. They have an incredible culture, and then Javier even he not only went straight from our event to then speaking at another event the same evening for Heinz on sustainability and hospitality. But then he turned around and then took the Lexi team out for their annual meeting at a lake, and then they went and did a 18,000 foot climb. So the highest point in Mexico. So there's a bunch of ground to cover.
18,000. Dang. I know. I probably saw your photos and Kane's photos. And I was like, Kane, that looks really high and really cold. And he sent me some notes about like, yeah, he said it was really hard.
It was a tough climb. Yeah, it was amazing. Well, about immersive, it was everything Geo and iOS offices team. Thank you very much, Gio, for putting that together. Andrea, Laura, Eunice, and all of our team was very happy to collaborate with you to make that great couple of days of magic.
Yeah.
among our industry. I think it was amazing couple of days.
Yeah, it was great to bring in a bunch of local operators, and we had some real estate people, some brokers, and furniture providers, and technology. But I mean, I'm always excited just to see the different brands collaborate, right? I mean, there was even some overlap, right? There's a couple people that were there that used to work for EOS, that you gave them a great foundation and start in the business, and then we were able to see some people that came from Regis that work for Heinz and some other stuff. So it's always fun to get different sides of the business from different people. And then there was people like Instant that you guys do business with. So it was good.
Yeah. And how high was the attendance? How many were we? Like
So
80?
we had 90 registered.
Wow.
And so of the 90, I'll probably tell you typically, 80 probably showed up, and people came and went, right? Not everyone stays the whole time. A lot of times speakers come and they speak and stay a little bit, and then they have other things to do. But I mean, the crazy part about it, Jamie, I don't know if I sent you this. I sent it to a couple people, but we actually had a female entrepreneur who literally had a child. She gave birth 2 weeks before, and she showed up with the baby, gave her talk. Her sister was watching the baby up at the top of the auditorium and gave her talk, and then walked back to the elevator, said hi to everyone, and then went. But I mean, just the
Is she an
amount of
operator? What's her?
yeah.
Wow.
She owns a brand called Comadre that has 3 or 4 locations. And then she also has a company called Passworks, right, Javier? That is kind of an aggregator.
Wow.
But again, it was so awesome just to see the people that showed up and the commitment that people had. And again, Javier, with his relationships and his family's relationships and his team's relationships, were able to really drive. And there's a couple times where I reached out to Javier, or the team, I'm like, we've only sold 20 tickets, and of the 20 tickets, 18 are American. I'm like, how do we get some Mexicans there?
I was also very happy that these few days with the Immersive and the Lexi event, I saw people from Canada, Turkey, Puerto Rico, Costa Rica, Colombia, obviously Mexico, and
Spain? Spain?
Yeah, and people from Spain.
Paloma came from Spain. Yeah.
It was a very interesting group that gathered together to speak.
Yeah, a real global group. I love it. So we already did a debrief episode on Immersive with Grant and Kurt. And one of some of the comments that kept coming up, Javier, were about your incredible team and the culture that you've created. So I want to know your secrets. And I kind of want to go back. You started the business with your brother, right? So at some point it was like the two of you. And how, like, what was the journey of growing this incredible team?
Well, I guess the story about iOS offices, I mean, it's been a dream. It's been a very nice dream that we have had the opportunity to live. We started with this dream of creating this space where people can come to the office because they want to, not because they have to. So we started with that 18 years ago. We wanted to change the connotation of the word work. Work, it used to be something that you need to do, that you might as well do it without wanting because you had the need to work, or maybe you didn't want to do that day. And we want to transform that word into something you want to do every day. I want to dress up to go to work like I dress up to go and meet my friends at night at a bar or at a restaurant, or like a Sunday I'm going to meet my family. So you get ready for that. And we saw after a few weeks of becoming members, our members, our clients, will actually start changing their wardrobe and start coming to the office as if it were something that they were actually enjoying. And that gave us meaning. So we went from having happy customers, and then we also took care of our staff. we don't really do a lot to have a happy staff. We actually don't think we need to motivate people. I think the most important part is not to unmotivate them. I'm not sure about the word in English. Like people has drive, they want to do things, they want
Mhm.
to propose things. So we should let them leave their work, their job, their position, their tasks within a certain reference frame, right? But let them do whatever they want, basically. Like for example, if we were talking about a football match, well, the football match has a lot of rules, right? As long as you observe those rules, you can do whatever you want inside the field, right? So that's what we are trying to do.
You
We
figure out how to score the goal.
uh,
Yeah, with the
coach,
team.
we
It's
coach
a
them
great
a little.
analogy.
We understand people make mistakes, but at the end of the day, it is them that are playing. We find it even a little useless to try to control the outcome of what's going on a location that is 2,000 miles away from me. We cannot really control that. The only thing we can do is to trust our people, coach them a little bit, and let them do whatever they want. And it's worked so far.
Well, the thing is, you lead by example, right? You, Laura, Unice, Andy, everyone leads by example. And I think that's the best part about it is, again, I've gotten to see the team interact in different shapes, forms, places, situations. And it's amazing because they truly, and part of it's cultural too, right? They truly love each other and care each other like family, right? And so you create that environment, you put the right people in those positions, you allow for them to step into what their natural tendencies are, and they gravitate towards that. And so I think it's really unique to see and experience just that passion they have, right? Is you don't have to tell someone you need to stay late and take care of this. I mean, like I'll give you an example, and I think I might have given this example on the podcast we did with Grant and Kurt, but the night we actually had translation devices for the American speakers. Well, they had to come in and set it up the night before. Well, Julian, who works that center, basically stayed until 12:30, making sure that got set up and setting up the room and the tables. And I was like, I'm not leaving until you leave, right? He's like, no, go. And I'm like, no, I'm gonna leave when you leave. We left at 12:30. He was back up there at 4 a.m. because he was in charge of the snacks and putting out the snacks, which EOS was gracious enough to sponsor, but putting out the snacks and the drinks. So we got back to the center at 4 a.m. to basically start preparing for the entire day, right? He slept 2.5 hours, right? You don't do that unless he didn't get paid more for it, right? I mean, it's a labor of love. It's a passion that he has. And so it's funny. He's even reached out to me over WhatsApp here in the last week or so, being like, hey, did you get pictures so that I can use? Because obviously y'all are trying to sell events and stuff like that. And but that's one small example of what people are willing to do when you create that culture. We gave the example too. Andy drives 2 hours to and from her home every day, right? That's how much she loves working for the company.
Wait, but is this really like Mexican culture, or is it the iOS culture? Because I think there are lots of owners out there, operators who have a team who would not have the same commitment. Like this, just no questions asked. I'm coming back to set up the snacks at 4 because this is a big deal and I want it to be successful. The population at large doesn't necessarily operate that way, right? I mean, you talk to a lot of operators and it's, Gen Z is so hard. They don't want to work. They don't want to show up. They need a mental health day, you're not experiencing that. And I'm guessing maybe it's not always sunshine and rainbows and maybe there are people who don't fit, but Yeah, do you have to say more about where this comes from?
We're trying not to participate in that because, yeah, I've worked with millennials, right, since our company was born, and now it's Gen Z. And people and companies have criticized them a lot, like if they were some sort of group.
Yeah.
I don't think that they necessarily obey the same culture and rules. And then again, I think I've always viewed a company like a person. Humans, we all have needs. Companies have needs as well. So when you try to create a lot of rules, it is impossible to create a big enough manual that will see every possible scenario. So instead of talking a lot about rules, we basically, I say, we have very little rules, 5 or 6, and everything else. Well, it depends, right? So, for example, we had this girl that she's single. She started working with her company in Monterrey. Then she wanted to go to live in Mexico City. Then she wanted to, but she was still seeing things in Monterrey, working remotely. And
Mm,
this is way before the pandemic, right?
mhm.
Then she wanted to go to Cancun, and then she met someone. She wanted to move to France. So she moved to France with her work at iOS Offices Monterrey. She was working remotely. She was there, I don't know, maybe a year or a little under a year. Then she came back to Mexico. I don't know where does she lives now anymore, but she's been with the company over 10 years. She's doing an amazing job. And at the beginning, it was like weird. Why are we going to allow her to go to France? But why not? Right? Like, what's the real reason? I mean, as long as you can keep up with work, wake up at, I don't know, 3 a.m. or go to bed at 10 p.m. I don't know the time difference right now, but she was always there working, doing her stuff, and it worked. At least it worked maybe a little more than her relationship that she came back, right? At some point. But we are, what I try to do is ask myself, why not? Javier, I'm 30 years old. I want to go and spend 1 month traveling. Can I go? Well, when I was 30, I wanted to do that and I didn't do it. So go and let's see what happens. And so far, we have not had a lot of abuse or terrible experiences because, of course, there is people that try to abuse, but we just try to manage things as they come, and most of the times they work well. So I guess we were very lucky that we had. You said this guy Gio was Julio,
Julian.
Jan, yeah. So he. I mean, I'm very thankful for people like Julian that he's very responsible. But I like that. I mean, we are humans. We have needs, and the company has needs. So I'm very glad that Julian see this need that we have right now, and he's there for us as we are gonna be there for him whenever he needs it.
But how do you attract people like that? And how do you know when someone's not going to fit and have that yeah, kinda have that commitment and passion?
People is like that, Jamie. People is like that. We don't attract them. We just try to treat them as the way we want it to be treated. So people is like that. People have needs. People have something to do on the weekend or at night or in the morning. The company does as well. So I mean, we are not like an extremely flexible environment. So what's flexibility? Because it's a term that this flex work is being like a fad the last couple of years, like in fashion, and please excuse my English. And flexible does not mean I will come to the office whenever I want. I will work remotely whenever I want. I will not work whenever I want. Flexible means flexible. I mean, sometimes you'll work on a Sunday. Sometimes you'll work at night. Sometimes you won't work. So that's flexible. It doesn't mean I don't like to work, which is the way I think companies and Gen Z is been interpreting flexible work, like not working or working whenever I want. And that is not flexible. That is something else.
And I think back to it, I mean, to your credit, it starts with leadership, right? And you've got an incredible team that leads by example, including you, right? When you want to do something, you do it, right? And, we're going to shift a little bit real fast, then we'll go back to the business side. But I mean, the fact that you did Immersive, then you went and spoke at an event that night, then you went to the after party, then the next day you went into meetings, and then you went out to, you had meetings the morning of Lexi, right? Everyone got out to Lexi. You went out there. Um, y'all had your meetings. You did I know that sailed a little bit. And then you and Kane woke up at like what time in order to get to, you drove like 6 hours to get to your climb, right?
8
And
hours.
what time did you, 8 hours? And what time did you start? All that. I mean, and you sent me a very touching note, which I appreciate. Thank you for that. But I mean, that climb meant a lot to you, not only for you, but you got to give Kane the experience. You gave your friends the experience. And so I think as leaders, when we want to do something, we figure out a way to do it. And it trickles down into the team. So kind of talk about that experience. I know, it meant a lot to you coming from your knee injury. What did that time with Kane mean to you on that mountain?
Well, I don't know if you ever experienced something like that, but walking at over 15,000 feet, it is totally breathtaking because you don't have any breath.
Literally. Yeah. Kane's text said he had to stop and take deep breaths every 20 paces.
Yeah,
Stop again, take more deep breaths. Yeah.
no breath. You feel a little headache. You feel sleepy, but you feel you can do it, right? The weather conditions were okay. And you feel like you're done, like every step. For me, it was very fulfilling because I've experienced a lot through the industry. I've climbed a few mountains with my colleagues from the US. Whenever I travel, they take me places. So for me, it was so nice showing Kane a little of Mexico, more than just a building, which also was nice to have so many people, a little bit of the business side of Mexico. Also, well, to see the challenges we can experience in the ice, at night, climbing a mountain. Am I free?
Yeah. So, I mean, so how many of y'all were up there? What was that process like? Because I mean, I saw y'all reading quesadillas at one point. At what time did you start? What was the overall process to get up there? Right. Because that's not an easy commute.
It is not. I mean, it is a very challenging mountain. We wake up at 12 at midnight. We walk from 1 a.m. Oh wow, yeah, that's a summit. Yeah,
Yeah.
we walk from 1 a.m. for a few hours. Fortunately, the whole group was able to summit. It was everybody's but me first time, so everybody was very happy. We waited at the summit for 3 hours for the last one of our group until he arrived. We had three guides with us because you actually feel like you're falling asleep while you're walking, which is quite dangerous.
Yeah.
That's because of the altitude. And actually, you start like dreaming while
Oh my
you're.
gosh. That's wild. So did one of the guides stay with the group member that was behind?
Yeah, so that's the reason why we have a few guides so they can move with different persons of the group. Yeah, yeah.
It's
When I
incredible.
when I arrived at the summit, the sun had not gone out yet, so it was also very nice to experience the sunrise from up there.
Wait, so
Yeah.
then
I love the one where you're sitting down, you can see your boots and then the sun rising.
A
That's
little
one of my
bit,
favorite pictures.
the first bit of the sun coming out.
Yeah.
wait, and then Kane said it's harder going down.
Oh yeah, it's also a little hard.
Okay.
Well,
Well, I'm
because
sure because you're exhausted at that point, but also there was snow and ice up there. You guys were wearing snow gear, right? And so I'm sure that's part of the concern too.
um,
Oh,
I've climbed Pico de Orizaba about 8 or 10 times, and it never gets easier. Oh yeah,
Javier, Are you doing a handstand?
Yeah, that's the highest handstand in Mexico.
Okay, that's incredible, and I am super impressed that you could do a handstand. Nice job. That's fantastic.
And my hands were freezing at that point.
I know that's what I'm looking at. Okay, if you're watching on YouTube, Javier's at the summit and he's doing handstand in the snow, in the
And
ice.
I didn't realize what I was doing at that point because you can see in my boots I'm wearing crampons,
Yeah,
picos.
yeah.
I don't know.
Bad idea to do a handstand in
And
crampons.
when my feet were going down, I was like, I hope I don't step on my hands.
Hey, yeah. Yeah.
Well,
Amazing.
you're going through his social media. So while you're doing that, Javier,
Thank you.
I want to ask you about your relationship with your mom. You post a lot of pictures with you and your mom.
Yeah.
What does she mean to you? How she helped you be the person you are today?
Oh, I think our parents have the people that raise us has everything to do with who do we become. So I've learned throughout the years that self-esteem does not come from your mom telling you you are beautiful or you're amazing or you're the best. Actually, self-esteem comes from you being able to esteem yourself, to like yourself, to prove yourself you are worth something. So the only way to prove yourself you are worth something is actually doing something. Sometimes making mistakes and sometimes redoing those. So when we have parents that give us both a lot of discipline and also a lot of love, that's what when we get lucky. So I'm going to summarize that in only two words: tough love. So I had a father that was very strict, very, very strict, and a mother that was very loving. So I feel really fortunate that I was raised in that environment because you have to make a lot of mistakes to grow up, and then you have also someone to pamper you and to comfort you when you are suffering. So I owe to my parents a whole bunch, a lot. Yeah.
And what about your passion for people, right? Not only we've talked about kind of your employees, right? But your passion to serve other people, right? You talked about the trees that you're trying to conserve there in your mountain home, but also I had touched base and was able to participate in the run in Monterrey. What started that run, that desire to give back to the community, to the children? Because that's been going for a while now. I've already seen your team's already preparing for this year's races. Where does your passion to give back to the community come from?
Well, I started hiking in um, in the 90s. I ran my first marathon in 1995, and when I started iOS offices, I at some point wanted to organize a race, 5 and 10K, which is very typical race, right? And instead of doing what everybody was doing at that time, a race, if you are or not familiar with races, most races back then used to be businesses. So you will organize like an event, like a concert, you will organize a race and profit from that. So I thought, why not, instead of profiting from a race, because I mean, we profit from renting places to work. So this is not going to be a profitable thing. Why don't we try to give something back? And there is this cerebral paralysis institution close to our neighborhood. So we got in touch with them and see if we could give them the outcome of the first race that we did back in 2012. And it's been a formula that has worked. I mean, we enjoy racing, we give something back, and plus we change life. Gio, I'm sorry about saying this because it sounds like if I'm bragging more than I should, but I've read dozens of times, if not hundreds, that this guy, I'm going to talk about Rafael. Rafael sends me an email before WhatsApp, before Instagram, sends me an email with a picture and with a very lovely email that says, Javier, I didn't want it to run your race. I felt that I had to because I compromiso. How do you say compromiso in English? Not compromise. It's
Commitment.
no. It is like I felt forced to run the race and to
Oh
buy the
yeah, yeah.
because you were insisting that I buy one ticket, right? So he bought a ticket. He ran his first race at age 60. He had never run in his life. So he sent me a picture with the medal of the iOS office's 10K race. And then he keeps riding. And now he's thin. A year has passed and he has finished the Chicago Marathon. So those stories, I mean, his health, his self-esteem, his everything. I mean, you make friends, you run with your pet, with your family. So the race has a lot of magic around it. So it's definitely something we want to keep doing. It takes a lot of effort, but we love the outcome, not only on regards to what we give back, but also to what every runner experiences. And we have seen cases like that one so many cases, people that had never run a race that just buy a ticket and then they're running the Boston Marathon, which is the hardest run to race to get in the world. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it was amazing to be a part of and participate and just see how much time, energy, effort goes into it. So congratulations to you and your team for everything that you guys are continuing to give back. It makes a difference for sure.
Okay,
Thank
I
you.
have a couple of topics.
Yeah.
So, Javier, I don't know how exposed I had been to your brand. We should have zoomed out at the very beginning of this podcast, which is that I think you run maybe the most impressive brand in co-working in shared office space. I mean, we should have sort of set the table with that. Your team, your culture, the hospitality that you deliver. You have 35 locations. You've been operating for how many years?
18 so far.
18 so far. Right. So you're not new to this, and yet I think you're on the leading edge of the industry in these areas, at least. And I don't know your business that well. So there's that. And so I would love to talk about your culture of hospitality and where that came from. The Grant and Kurt gave an example. They said, well, there was, some sort of cabinet locking the beer in the location you were at for the event. And they said to your team, like, well, we'd really like a beer. And the team opened, the
No, they basically said, no, they said, we don't have the key. And they basically found a way to take the hinges off in order to get to the beer
they
without the
broke
key.
into it, into their own cabinet. But you have barista slash bartender slash psychologists, therapists who work in your space. And so I was first introduced to that. Your bartenders did a session for us. I think it must have been over the pandemic for the GWA conference that we did virtually. And we're like, how do we make this fun? Let's invite Javier's bartenders. And they made cocktails and it just blew me away, to have that in a workspace. And from what I understand, they just bring so much to your culture and to your members. So, yeah, how did that come to be? Because food and beverage in a workspace in the States is still very new. For sure, there's coffee. You're generally the community manager brews it. That's the extent of it. That's changing, but you've been doing this for years. So I want to hear about the origins of that and tell us what that looks like.
Well, Jamie and Gio, thank you for your perspective on our operation. It makes me feel overwhelmed and happy to see our company from your eyesight, from your perspective, which I mean we've worked so hard to create. I want to add something. I do not believe in visionaries. I think we create things as they go. I mean, even if you see these amazing, successful people like Bill Gates or Mark Zuckerberg, I mean, they were doing something right. They kept doing it. they got lucky as well, and they were able to manage that growth, and that's why they are where they are. I don't think they were like, I'm gonna create this and then did it. So I don't believe in that kind of line. So in that manner, we were not envisioning where we were gonna go, but we were envisioning small steps on how to redirect. So we made a few tests. I like a model that I call rapid prototyping, fail fast, fail often. So we try new things all of the time, and which one, if something's working, we keep on doing it, and we keep on perfecting it and improving it. So we started out doing tests on mixology and how to serve our clients in a different way. We saw that very few of our clients actually drink alcohol during work hours, but everybody loves the idea of having that possibility. Plus, we found also something very special. When a bartender grows up a little in age, they don't want to work at night anymore. They are a father, a mother, they have kids, they have a family, so they want a day job. And most of their growth opportunities are at night. So they are I learned that they are happy to have a day work at an office space, and we still go to, how do you say, concursos?
Contest.
We still go to mixology contests, them as bartenders. Like, if so, iOS offices is a bar contesting with real bars, with real, with our drinks, and we sometimes win. So we try to keep that vibe of a bar, and we try to give a break to our clients every once in a while, maybe trying to make them feel as if they actually are not working for half an hour when they're at the bar. So we're trying to we've observed that it's work. They like it. We have like 20 bartenders throughout the company, and yeah, they are a very nice spice to keep.
And they make coffee. They make
Uh,
espresso drinks. Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I love it. I love
But
it.
Jamie, this goes further. I mean, I remember one time this center manager, he had a rock band and he wanted to perform a concert. So he asked permission, can I do it here? And we go like, let's let's ask the building. So he did a concert at their offices. And then we had this other baker lady. I want to bake cakes for the office. So we let them do and try whatever they bring to the table. I want to go and collect garbage from the beaches. So we all try to make an effort and go on. So it is not something that we necessarily impose or propose. We are trying
Mhm.
to listen to everyone in the
Yep.
company, to listen to our clients, and to become better, a better option for them. You were talking, Jamie, about the culture of hospitality. And I guess we had no other option. I mean, I came up with iOS offices back in 2007 with my brother, Adrian, and we were the, you say in English, underdog, like the new incoming, there's a word for that. And we were competing against brands that had been established for decades in our market. So we had to be better. We had to attract clients and to make them feel happy, and to try to cater them in any way possible. So I guess that's where our culture comes from, because we had no other option but to be better.
Yeah, and I think one of the things about being unique and different and better, any of those things, right, or just not using the word visionary, but certainly someone that's able to adapt is, I mean, I think one of the things that I found most interesting when I toured your spaces in May in Mexico City was the enterprise space, right? And how you were able to service, you had Roku and LinkedIn, and you had these big names, and they didn't have like one office or two office. They had like a corner of the floor, right? And they had 3, 4 offices in there. They had a conference room. They had a kind of a open think tank session room where they had couches and whiteboards. And how have you seen the enterprise business continue to evolve within your portfolio?
Well, we run UI, we all do, are in what I would say the most service intensive industry in the world. And what do I mean by this? If you go to a restaurant, you might not come back to the restaurant in a week, in a month, or maybe in half a year, right? If you go to a hotel, you will spend a few nights and then maybe you will visit that hotel a year later or half a year later. But our clients step into our office and spend and 8 to 10 hours every day of the week, every week of the month, and for years, 5 years, 10 years, 15 years. So we come into something that is called the factor of coincidence. I don't know how to say it in English. So what does it mean? It means that at some point something is gonna go wrong. The sewage, the water, the electricity, people, something's
The
gonna go wrong.
internet, the printer.
If you go to a hotel, I mean, chances are you're not gonna experience anything like that because you're only there for maybe 2 hours in a year, maybe 20 hours in a year. But our clients spend hundreds of hours in a year using my chair, my phone, my internet connection, my restroom, my coffee machine, my water, my plates, glasses, doors. So they're using everything all the time. So it is very hard to be in our industry. And where am I going with this? We might as well try to cater them I mean, the enterprise clients in every way possible because they can do the office themselves. I mean, offices are not rocket science, right? We rent offices and they can do it themselves. They've been doing their offices themselves forever. So in order to be able to compete with themselves, we need just to make their life a little easier and better.
Okay, I actually really love like that's such a beautiful like sort of mindset perspective. Like it's bound something's bound to happen. Like a hotel you can get lucky and somebody can have like, a 10 out of 10 experience, but people spend enough time in a space and something's going to happen.
Imagine yourself, Jamie, move yourself and live to a hotel
Yeah,
and stand there.
right?
You will
Totally.
know who's dating who picked up who, at what time they came in, they go out, who cleans better, who leaves the restroom better, because you will know everything that's going on there.
Yeah.
So that's how our clients see us. They know everything about our company a lot better than we do.
Totally. Always remember that too, right? Yep. Wait, Gio, I feel like you started to ask this. This might be our last question because we have another guest after this. Javier, you serve a broad range of clients, but you are the largest Herman Miller purchaser in Mexico, from what I understand. So you have really beautiful spaces that I would consider to be, pretty premium positioned. Did you start that way? And tell me about sort of how the enterprise client fits into like your past and maybe your future. Just because today, sort of post COVID, like, we have a lot of brands with hopes and dreams of scaling with the enterprise client. And I'm guessing it's your premium positioning in in a market outside of the US that has helped you attract that client. But yeah, I'd love to hear sort of, past and future view on the enterprise client.
Yeah, we actually did start it that way, Jamie. Decades ago, enterprise companies learned that in order to attract and retain talent, they needed to offer them something appealing for them, not only money. And I'm going to ask a very weird question, but for your current salary, would you like to live in Bangladesh or would you like to live in Cambodia? And the most common answer, I'm pretty sure you'll say no. And how about if I pay you twice as much? Would you go to Bangladesh? And I think you would still say no, right? And so, what am I trying to set up with that question and that example? Is that we humans, we choose what do we want to do and where do we want to do it. So instead of looking at employment as something a country needs to fix, it is actually the big companies that have more thirst for talent than the people looking for a job are have thirst. I don't know if I'm trying. I'm
Mhm. Yeah,
able
yeah, totally
to.
following. Yep.
So the company actually wants someone that works, that wants to work, that wants to come every day, that will work with passion. So they need to give the employee a more competitive advantage. Location, design, ambiance, everything that goes with it. In that way, the employee will choose you. I want to work for you.
Mhm.
I might get a little more money or a little less as long as it is within market range. There will be there because they choose you. So we were trying to do that for enterprise companies. We were catering them, hosting them, enable for them to be successful and competitive in order to attract and retain talent. They've been doing it for decades. And co-working before iOS offices, I would say, used to be something cheap and for a short time. Like we don't want to look at co-working like long time. We don't want to. We were looking for a cheap solution while our offices are ready. So we tried to change that. So we have had clients that have been with us since day one, and we are trying to keep elongating their time with us. So maybe they're gonna be there with us for 2 decades, breaking every paradigm on our industry. We want
Yeah,
clients
no,
long time. We have long time relationships, and we are not cheap. We give you a great solution that will make you more competitive.
So you gotta pay the bartenders. Mhm.
I mean, it is more.
I think that perspective holds it's even more true today, right? I mean, what you said about people wanna decide, I think the pandemic really shifted, priorities for people. To your point, like, you need to make enough money, but then the rest of it is, well, how do I spend my day and with whom? And that becomes so critical.
Treats me
Yeah,
with respect, who gives me my
yeah.
goals, who congratulates me when I do something good. All we are looking into. They say people get hired by companies and then they quit the boss.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
There are many things that have need to take care of in order for companies to be competitive from a human resources standpoint.
And Javier, people don't quit you. You have an extraordinary tenure on your team. I mean, I think Grant was like, "How's this happening?" It's pretty how long has your longest team member been with you?
17 years.
Yeah. Amazing.
Most of my senior staff has been in the company for over 12 years.
Yeah.
well,
Incredible.
even Lauda started as a consultant, right? And you basically coerced her into joining you and helping you run the company.
Yeah, something very nice about that experience is that Laura works with us officially part-time. So we never talked about a full-time job, but she works full-time in practice. Our agreement is a part-time
He's a
job.
part-time. Here she is. I love it. Okay, we have to wrap
I'm
up.
so
Gio.
happy that to see the passion in her and everybody in our team, and also it is very fulfilling to see their lives evolving, not only growing with the company but also as a mother, as a human being. So it is very, because we all grow old, Jamie, but not everybody. uh,
I know, Javier, we aren't gonna you and your brother still have your, youthful good looks.
Well, we really appreciate you taking time while in the mountains. Thank you for sharing that beautiful backdrop with us and taking time. And Thank you. Yeah, absolutely stunning. And again, thank you for you and your team and your dedication to the industry. You were a GWA board member, then you've given us the gift of Lauda. Your team really came through for Immersive in Mexico City, and we're just excited to continue seeing more and more of you and just getting to know your team better and better.
Thank you, Gio and Jamie. It's an honor for me to be here.
Thank you, Javier.
Take care. Enjoy the day.
You too.